I'm Elizabeth, and today I've got a book haul for you from my recent trip to Apollycon. If you've been following my channel, you know I'm not buying books this year. So how is this a book haul? How did this happen, Elizabeth? Stay tuned and find out. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I'm not buying books this year. And there are a series of rules around that. Things that I can acquire legally, things that I'm not allowed to acquire, and why I'm doing this project in the first place. So if you haven't watched that video, I will go ahead and link that in the cards so that you can get a sense of what this project looks like. I will tell you that there are 2 books in this haul that I really should not have acquired at all. And several other books that I should not have acquired in the manner that I acquired them. But the problem is that I did not set a rule for free books at conferences. I set a rule for free Kindle books, which are not allowed for sure, unless they are by underrepresented authors. And I did not set a rule for any books that were just like, I don't know if you've ever been to a reader or writer convention, but one of the things that happens is that you don't even have to actively try to pick up books. You get handed them. So you walk into an event and they hand you a bag and it's got a book in it, or it's got 3 books in it. I had that happen 4 times this weekend. So several of these books were things that I could say, oh, no, thank you, and just walk on by. I am constitutionally apparently incapable of that. So I did end up acquiring 14 books at this conference, which is a lot. But I will explain to you what I'm going to do about that at the end of this video. I don't know why you would want to skip the haul part, but if you are only interested in the no book buying year and how this is impacting my no buy, I will put on the screen where that starts so that then you know how to skip to that, I guess, or I guess where you can stop watching if you only want to watch the haul. So let's start with the books that I actually acquired at this event. So first are the 2 that I was not supposed to acquire at all, but that I was handed at events. So the first one I got during the 1001 Nights Sparkler event, and this was just sort of handed to me in a bag. This was Deep Trouble by Kimberly Kincaid. She's actually local, like I've met her several times because she lives in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area somewhere. And it's very, very short. So I don't actually think I would have a problem getting through this one relatively quickly. But it was not on my list in any way of things that I was allowed to acquire at all. So I will tell you at the end what I'm going to do with this. The second book is similar situation. This is Milady by Laura Sullivan. I got this one there was an event hosted by Berkeley, the publisher Berkeley, for bloggers and booktubers. And this is, I said Milady by Laura Sullivan. This is a historical fiction, so it's not even romance. It is about Milady de Winter, who was the nemesis of the 3 Musketeers. And this book is kind of a retelling, I guess, of that story from her perspective. And this one, I almost kind of said, oh, maybe I could just kind of slip this into somebody else's bag and then I wouldn't have to worry about it. But the thing is that I think historical fiction is actually one of the Romanceopoly squares, and I would have been probably getting something from the library for that anyway, since I don't really have a lot of historical fiction on my TBR. In fact, I'm not sure I have any. So I do have this. It's an ARC. It's coming out in July. So I will tell you again at the end what I'm going to do with this book. The next book is another Berkeley acquisition, and this was Not the Girl You Marry by Andy Christopher. Now, I've talked about Andy's book on the channel before. I talked about it in one of my This Week in Romance videos when Entertainment Weekly did a cover reveal. And Andy is actually a personal friend, and she's been threatening for several weeks to like slip one into my bag because I was saying, you know, I'm not supposed to acquire books that way. However, because it was given to me at the event, and because I knew Andy was gonna probably, you know, saddle me with it at some point anyway. And actually, I'm really looking forward to reading it because it's a gender flipped How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which is one of my very favorite rom-coms, and I think this is just going to be a really fun book. And also, Andy is an underrepresented author. She is biracial, and I would have definitely acquired this book in some other way at some later date anyway. And this comes out in November. The next one, and I'm just going to go ahead and go through the rest of the Berkeley books. This is the last one. This is The Wedding Party by Jasmine Guillory. It comes out in July. This is I think the third book in her series, The Wedding Date, The Proposal, and The Wedding Party. I actually haven't read the first two books, although I do own The Wedding Date. And so this is an arc. But same thing, Guillory is, I think, African American, and I could have acquired this book via purchasing it when it came out, or because I actually owned the first one in the series, could have gotten it from the library. So, I mean, the fact that now I have my own copy is kind of, should I have acquired the arc? No. Should I have acquired a book before I finished the one that I'm currently reading? No. But this one will keep me in books for a little while longer, and I can go ahead and review it early, which is great. And so even though I've sort of broken the spirit of my of my no-buy on this one, like some of the others in this stack, I conference, it is what it is. Finally, well, not finally, there's 3 more that I got for free. Wait, no. 2 more that I got for free. Oh my gosh. What is wrong with me today? So this is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is also an arc. It comes out in May. I'm sure you've seen this one pop up on YouTube if you watch any number of YouTubers. I know Chelsea Dolling really loved it, and Kathy, I can't remember how to say your last name right now. I'll link their channels down below with their reviews because they really, really loved this book. And it's gotten a lot of great early buzz. This is MM. I believe the author is non-binary or genderqueer. She goes by she and they are her pronouns. So like I said, there was so much buzz about this, and so many people that I follow loved it. So I probably would have acquired it when it came out anyway. And the thing about this is that it is coming out pretty soon. So I probably would have purchased this anyway, and I will talk a little bit more about sort of my logic and reasoning behind why I don't feel super guilty about acquiring this one after that timestamp later on. The last book that I got for free is Jacqueline and the Beanstalk by Mary Ting. This one actually came in my Apollycon registration bag, so this just was as a result of registering for the conference. So while I guess I kind of paid for this via my conference registration fee, the author is actually of Asian descent, and this is obviously a female Jack and the Beanstalk retelling. So I was very curious about this, and I think I'm definitely looking forward to reading it. So I'm gonna hang on to this. And finally, another book by Mary Ting. So what happened here is that I was attending the signings at Apollycon, and they break them into 2 parts. So you get to go to one room in the morning and one room in the afternoon. And while I was sitting at lunch in between the 2 signings, I was scrolling Instagram, and scrolling the Apollycon hashtag on Instagram. And I saw those little pop-up stands that people have at conventions. A picture of this book, or maybe it was the next one in the series, which is coming out soon, Helix. And it says International Sensory Assassin Network. Doesn't that sound fascinating? So this is sci-fi romance, SFR, and it's by an underrepresented author. And even though I am currently in the middle of reading American Dreamer, I'm about 60% of the way finished with that now. I mean, and I have been for days because I haven't had time to read it all, thanks to, being at Apollycon. I will go ahead and read this one next. So this is just sort of like maybe a couple of days purchased too early. So that's half of of the books that I acquired at Apollycon. The other half are kind of a piece. If you've seen my March, mid-March Favor Flops video, my romance recommendations for halfway through March, I finished Firelight by Kristen Callahan and automatically went and got the next 2 books from the library in ebook because the library had them and because I am absolutely obsessed with this series. So however, it seems like everyone else feels about like Nalini Singh's Psy Changeling books or Kresley Cole's Immortals After Dark books. I tried both of those series. Neither one of them worked particularly well for me. But Darkest London by Kristen Callahan is perfection. Everything about this series just utterly works for me. It's historical paranormal, and I'll show you the covers while I'm talking because these are the first 3 books and I've already read them. They are just, they're set in London and they're set in Victorian London and there's like a paranormal aspect to them. So each book has a different couple and they're just utterly compelling. The writing is so great. The world building is terrific. I can't say too many good things about these. And especially this one, Winter Blaze. It's a marriage in trouble trope. I've talked about this before, so if you saw that video, sorry. But I really I loved everything about this book and will probably reread all of these, honestly, once a year. So the fact that Callahan DM'd me before the conference when she saw me raving about these books on Twitter because she follows me, she offered to bring them to me just as a gift. Because she happened to have some copies left from when she was actively promoting the series. And the series has been over for a while. And she's got 2 other series, a Rockstar series and a new adult series that she is currently actively promoting. And so, she said they were just sitting there and that I could have them if I wanted. And I knew that, in fact, I had actually already added them to my cart with the idea that I would be purchasing these on the 1st of January 2020. So the fact that I was going to be able to get them from her in person as a gift and have her sign them at Apollycon was just so precious to me. I couldn't say no. So I went ahead and said yes to that, and she did bring them with her and gave them to me. So these 3 that I haven't read yet are going right here. Hopefully you can see that. Oh yeah, easy. On my keeper shelf because there's no way I won't read the heck out of these multiple times. I just love them so much. And then, of course, there's the other 4 books in the series. So Shadow Dance, Evernight, Forevermore, and Soulbound. And I had fully planned to read these as soon as I could get each of them from the library. In fact, the hold for Shadow Dance came in while I was at the hold for the ebook for Shadow Dance came in while I was at Apollycon. So I've read I think up to page like 3. I've read like the first 3 pages. And so I was definitely going to read these within the next month anyway. And that was just going to be the way it was. So the fact that I now have them in paperback, when I had fully intended to purchase the paperbacks for my keeper shelf anyway, is sort of, a low priority on my guilt scale over my Apollycon acquisitions. So now let's talk about how this impacts my no book buying year. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I hadn't really intended to acquire books at conferences because I hadn't intended to attend conferences this year. The thing is, that was probably not terribly realistic. I got talked into attending Apollycon because a number of my local friends were going to be there, and I figured, okay, well, I'm just going to go too and hang out with people. Not really thinking about the fact that there would, and I guess one of the things that I didn't realize about Apollycon in particular was that there would be opportunities for acquiring books without any particular cost to me. I was under the impression that because it was sort of mainly based around like a Friday signing and a Saturday signing, that we would be purchasing books to have signed. And of course I wasn't doing that. And I actually had people sign if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen these. My vintage Harlequin postcards. And so I'm going to go ahead and have these framed and put them up, you know, back here somewhere. And I love these, and I've had them for years, and I never knew what to do with them. And so I had planned to have authors sign these. And I did, of course. But I didn't realize that there would be, which I suppose is silly because it's been this way at every romance conference I've ever been to, just sort of like free books handed to me at various points. So I didn't make any rules for it. Now, one of the things that happened at Apollycon is that I got talked into registering for the RWA National Conference in New York. So I am going to nationals in New York now. And the problem with that conference is that conference I've been to twice. And I have both times acquired, I mean, I think I acquired more books the first year I went than the second year, where I had a little more restraint and a little more like awareness going in to like what I was going to be up against. And so I just, I know going in that there are going to be books that I will want. They will be free because the publisher signings for registered guests at the RWA at the RWA National Conference are free. The signings are free. The books are free. And I know there will probably be a few that will be coming out in the next few months, often probably by underrepresented authors that I will want, that I will know that I'm allowed to acquire when they come out in a couple of months, but that I shouldn't usually pick up based on my no-buy rules. So I'm making a new set of rules for conferences. And that is this, that anything that I pick up at a conference has to be read within 30 days. And so this is because there are two kind of components to my no book buying year, two overarching reasons why I'm not buying things this year. And the first one is financial, because we really want to replace the flooring in our condo this year. And so that led me to say, you know, I have a lot of books. I could probably afford not to buy new books this year, and we could put that money toward this project. So that for that financial reason, buying free books don't impact that. That doesn't change anything. The other thing that I realized is that I have, as I've said, 780, although it's a few less now because we're now in March, 780 unread books, sort of split between ebooks and paperbacks. And that seems like a lot to me, more than I'm personally comfortable with. And I know some other people have lots more books than that, and that's everyone's comfort level with those things is different. I would personally prefer, and can I show you that? Maybe. So I have a couple of situations where like I have books double stacked, and so I don't even know what I have. And I'd love to get that down to a situation where I can see everything that I have at some point, sometime in the future. And so I'm really trying not to add books to my TBR, just sort of for my own peace of mind, my own decluttering purposes, and just so that I'm reading the things that I own and that I buy. So the problem with free books at conferences is that then I have to add those to my TBR. So instead of simply trying to ignore one of the primary benefits of spending all this money to go to a conference, what I'm going to do is I am going to limit myself to books that I know I will be able to read within 30 days. So I know that I can't read more than 15 books in a month. So that is my absolute uppermost ceiling for books to acquire at conferences. The next sort of component of that is that anything that I don't read within 15 days is going to be, within 30 days, any of those 15 books that I don't read within 30 days is going to be unhauled. So while acquiring books is not my primary reason for attending conferences, my primary reason for attending conferences is to make those connections with people that I know from previous years, from being online a lot, talking about romance novels. And I just wanted to provide myself a way to have some of the things that I know I would buy at some point anyway, that it doesn't make sense for me to turn down when when that sort of doesn't make sense for one of my other primary goals behind this year. So this project was actually inspired by a beauty vlogger, Hannah Louise Poston. And one of the things that happened during her no-buy year, which was actually last year, this year she's got a new project, is that there were times when she was trying to figure out what to do about a particular situation and how it fit within her rules. And she very much needed to stay within the absolute letter of all of her, with the absolute spirit rather, of all of her rules. And I think for me, I'm a little bit less motivated to stay within the absolute spirit of the rules. And the reason is because I do have kind of these dual goals. And so it doesn't make any sense for me for the perfect example is this one, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. There was no way I was not going to acquire this and read it at some point after it comes out in May. And this way, rather than reading this one, buying this one at full price at some later point when I had literally seen it sitting on a table for free 2 months before, I decided to go ahead and pick it up and spend my Amazon gift card, which I would have used to purchase that book, on something else. So that's what seemed to make sense to me, trying to navigate the waters between books that I would have purchased anyway at some later date and books that were sitting there free on a table that it didn't make sense not to acquire. So I think between the other rules that I have set and this new rule behind having to read them within a 30-day period, that will hopefully work to keep my TBR from continuing to grow completely out of control. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, please consider liking the video, or sharing with someone you think might enjoy it. Have a great week. Doubt not, slay some words, and Lex has your back. Bye.